It is my pleasure to be hosting this event today.
Switzerland remains supportive of initiatives that promote inclusive economic development.
SKYE 2 aims to increase the prospect of gainful employment for Nigerian youths.
The Director General of WTO is a woman. It's not just God a woman, but look at the impact.
When more women are funded. And so this trickles down into job creation and proliferation, and then you see that our employment gaps begin to close.
Gender on the Tender has been quite informative and quite an expository forum. Really excited to be here today. I think it was very informative. I learned a lot. It was absolutely fantastic being a part of today's program.
It was awesome, and as I'm talking to you, I've taken my first contract on painting and I've delivered it, and I'm hoping to have more.
Inter-Bau Foundation, because we believe in skills, you have to be skilled. It's not just enough that you're a woman. You have to be competent, you have to be professional. We actually train women in construction skills.
Blessed be your name forever. You are worthy to be praised.
Thank you, because we know that everything that you start, you already have ended it, and we praise you. We thank you for the National Policy on Affirmative Procurement. We thank you for all who has been part of it. May your name alone be glorified in their lives. And we thank you, oh God, because this policy shall transform lives, shall change lives, and shall cause your will to be done, even in everyone that will participate in it. Father, we decree and we declare and we say, today is for you alone. You are Lord and Master of today. Take charge, take control. This whole environment is for you. For all our speakers, our panelists, the ones doing the good messages, Father, we say thank you, because everything will be to your glory. In Jesus' name we pray with thanksgiving. Whilst you are still remaining standing, please let's take the national anthem.
So good morning again, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Just a few housekeeping, and then we'll get right into the agenda. The agenda for today has been shared as a QR code, and I think those pieces of paper have been placed on your tables. If you don't have one, you can ask one of the ushers in the room. The ladies in orange, our ladies, young ladies, graduates of the Inter-Bau Foundation in the orange overalls. You can ask them for any support that you need in terms of getting the QR code or any other support that you may need. We've got bathrooms on the two sides of the hall, right just outside the exit. So if you need to use the convenience, you can find your way there as well. And of course, the exit points are to the left and right of the hall as well. My name is Fabia Ogumekon. I'm a gender and development consultant and also a lawyer. It is my pleasure to be hosting this event today on behalf of the Inter-Bau Foundation and our various partners in the room. Once again, welcome, and I welcome those of you who are also joining online. We have a full online audience as well. And to our online audience, we say welcome, please participate in all the conversations. There will be somebody online moderating, and we want to ensure that we get your voices in as well. We have a very long protocol list, and I will run through them periodically in the course of the day. I'll run through a number now, so please, everyone is distinguished, everyone is acknowledged. But I will run through a first set of protocols and I will come back to them periodically as others also arrive and to run through more efficiently. I would like to recognize the presence of Dr. Adebowale A. Adedokun, the Director General, the Bureau for Public Procurement, who is also our keynote speaker for today. Please, a round of applause. Thank you very much, sir. You're welcome. The Honorable Minister, the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs, Hajia Iman Suleiman Ibrahim. I believe she will be joining online, or a representative of hers. Please let's acknowledge her presence and her endorsement of this event. Dr. Karin Jansen, the First Secretary and Head of Development Cooperation at the German Embassy. Thank you very much, Madam. Ms. Cornelia Camenzind, Consul General, the Consulate of Switzerland. Ms. Beatrice Ayong, Country Representative, UN Women. Ms. Helen, Ministry of Education. Mrs. Feishayo Alayande, Executive Director, Lagos State Employment Trust Fund, LSETF. Florence SKYE, General Manager and Coordinating Director, Lagos State Building Control Agency. Engineer Olayinka Abdul, General Manager, Lagos State Materials Testing Laboratory. Representative of the Lagos State Ministry of Wealth Creation and Employment. Representative of the Ministry of Women Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, WAPA, for Lagos State. Mr. Fidelis Imoesili, Director General, Federation of Construction Industry, FOCI. And Industry, I know she's here. Welcome, madam. Mr. Shegun Ajayi Kadi, Director General, Manufacturers Association of Nigeria. Ms. Olamide Oshodi, Gender Business Department at the Bank of Industry. You're welcome if you're here. Representative of Women in Successful Careers, representing Mrs. Amina Oyabola, the Executive Secretary, Kemini Apapan. You're welcome. And Madam Ifemena Oji, the President, International Women's Society, Nigeria. You're welcome. So I will pause the protocols list for now, and we'll come back appropriately later. Thank you very much. But everyone is recognized, and thank you everyone for being here. Another round of applause, please. Thank you. Okay. So, like I said, thank you so much for taking the time to be here this morning. We are looking forward to a truly rich session, to information sharing, and to great dialogue. Our desired outcome of this event would be to have everyone leave feeling enriched, empowered, and most importantly, informed. So please, when the opportunity arises for questions and clarifications and comments, please take full advantage of all our expert presenters in the room, and of course our panelists as well. We welcome again those of you joining online. Please keep the engagement going, share your reflections, your comments. Please use the online tools to ensure that your voice is heard, and we do have online moderation happening, so they will be feeding that into the room from time to time. Just to give you a sense of what the agenda looks like, in terms of flow, we will kick off with some Goodwill Messages from our development partners and champions of affirmative procurement in the room and women's economic empowerment. Some are here physically and some will be joining us online. We'll also have a keynote presentation by the Director General of the Bureau for Public Procurement, where we will have an opportunity to be introduced to the National Affirmative Procurement Policy and what it holds for us as stakeholders. We will then have panel sessions where we will further unpack the policy, taking us from policy to action, which is what we are really here for. Again, please take advantage of these sessions to ask as many questions as time permits. And of course, during the tea break and the post-event, there'll be opportunities for networking and more questions. Right, just to also say we have sign language support for our people with disabilities in the room. I will be supported by Rachel and Omolola today. Please let's give them, acknowledge their presence as well. We're inclusive here, thank you very much, thank you. And so, our theme for today and why we're here gathered, gender on the tender for affirmative procurement. What does it all mean? What does it all mean? To shed more light on this, I will be introducing and then inviting a powerhouse, a woman who is visionary and who has played a key role in ensuring today's convening has been a crucial, and who has also been a crucial part of development of the affirmative procurement policy. I'll be reading her profile and then of course inviting her up. And this is no other than the person of Ms. Doris Okechukwu Mbadiwe, the CEO of Inter-Bau Foundation for Women and Youths. But first, her short bio. This is a very short and abridged version of a long and dynamic career. Doris Okechukwu Mbadiwe, SKYE, is a seasoned chief executive with over 17 years of leadership experience across construction, infrastructure, and institutional reform. She is the chief executive officer of the Inter-Bau Foundation for Women and Youth, where she leads national advocacy, policy engagement, and capacity building initiatives aimed at expanding women's participation in the construction and infrastructure value chains, and positioning procurement reform as a driver of enterprise competitiveness and sustainable employment. Under her leadership, the foundation has designed and launched pioneering programs, including the first leadership hub for women in construction and the built environment, and Nigeria's first construction trades women career fair day, creating structured pathways for skills development, industry visibility, and workforce integration. She holds leadership responsibilities within the Inter-Bau Construction Limited company itself, bringing practical industry insight into skills development, public procurement system, and infrastructure delivery. Doris serves as the member of the National Technical Working Committee on the forthcoming National Policy on Affirmative Procurement, contributing to the development of implementation frameworks that expand equitable access to public contracting for women-led, youth-led, persons with disabilities, and veteran-owned enterprises. A governing council member of the Federation of Construction in Nigeria, FOSI, reflecting her active role in shaping sector-wide dialogue policy direction. Through the Gender on the Tender initiative, she advances inclusive procurement as structured economic reform that strengthens MSMEs, expands employment opportunities, and drive inclusive national growth. Ladies and gentlemen, please make welcome the CEO for her welcome address.
And indeed, welcome and good morning. I'll be quick because we're sort of pressed for time for some of our speakers. So on behalf of the board and management of Inter-Bau Foundation for Women and Youths, I warmly welcome our distinguished guests and partners. I stand on the established protocol and respectfully acknowledge all dignitaries present. I would especially like to recognize the DG of the Bureau of Public Procurement, Dr. Adebowale Adedokun, whose exemplary leadership and zeal has been instrumental in developing the forthcoming national policy on affirmative procurement. His commitment to ensuring that this policy is both inclusive and implementable has made today's engagement possible. We are grateful for your vision, sir, and your continued guidance. Thank you. I extend sincere appreciation to the Honorable Minister of Women's Affairs, Hajia Iman Suleiman Ibrahim, and the UN Women Country Representative, Ms. Beatrice Ayon, for their strong institutional support for women's economic empowerment and collaboration in advancing systemic inclusion. To all senior government officials, thank you for your participation. To our major development partners, particularly the German and Swiss governments, represented by Dr. Karin Jansen, First Secretary, Head of the Development Corporation, German Embassy, Ms. Cornelia Camenzind, the Consul General of Switzerland, and we have Britta Ekens, representing GIZ. Thank you for your steadfast partnership in expanding business capacity, supporting skills acquisition and job creation for women and youth within the construction sector. Also to my other technical working group members, the BPP team, Madam Engineer Esther Oje, the CEO of the Wadi Group, Madam Esther Machelia. Also, there are quite many, the others, pressed for time, so thank you very much to the technical working group members. I especially want to acknowledge the CEO representatives of our partner construction companies, Prestigious Homes Limited, Enejo Building Construction, BCL Construction, Black Diamond Construction, and Dutum Construction, whose actions in admitting our graduates, the graduates of our training program, as paid interns and entry-level staff translates policy into employment opportunities. You will notice some of them, some of our graduates in the orange and blue overalls in the hall. To our distinguished panelists, thank you, and we're grateful for your engagement and partnership. Today's gathering is a statement that procurement is more than a technical process, it's a powerful economic instrument. It should be embedded in our national systems, and that women's economic empowerment must move from aspiration to implementation. Nigeria stands at a defining moment. With the forthcoming national policy on affirmative procurement, we have before us a historic opportunity to reshape access to public contracting, ensuring that the target groups, women-owned, women-led businesses, youth, people with disabilities, veterans, are active contributors within our economy, not peripheral participants. Public procurement represents a significant portion of the national expenditure, particularly in infrastructure. When we mainstream gender within procurement systems, we do more than promote equity. We stimulate growth, expand employment, strengthen competitiveness, and deepen accountability. Working in the construction and infrastructure sectors, we are clear that women are capable, women are ready, and women are indeed building now. What remains is ensuring that our systems are equally ready for them. Gender on the tender is not about preferential treatment. It is about structured, measurable, and equitable access. It is about removing systemic barriers and increasing visibility within procurement frameworks. Inclusive procurement strengthens SME ecosystems, diversifies supply chains, and expands sustainable employment. It also improves national productivity. To the target groups, this conversation is about you and requires your readiness. You must be prepared. Prepare your businesses to access opportunities, and not just to win contracts, but to deliver them with excellence, efficiency, and integrity. What outcome do we seek today? Knowledge and awareness of the upcoming national policy on affirmative procurement, practical and implementable recommendations, strong institutional partnerships, and shared commitment to accountability. Indeed, indeed, indeed. Let today move us from dialogue to structured actions, as I wish each and every one of us a productive and impactful engagement. Thank you for listening, and God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
I think we can do better than that for our convener. Thank you very much. Thank you, Doris, for your very sharp and succinct and to the point welcome address. Thank you very much. Our partners, a keen supporter of women, women's economic empowerment, and of course, of affirmative procurement, and helping to ensure that this event happened today. A very, very key partner, and that is Cornelia Camenzind, the Consul General of the Embassy. As she comes up, a very loud applause until she reaches the stage, please.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, and in particular ladies today, because I see mostly ladies, which is fabulous. And I'm sure the few men that are here apologize my comment that I had to make empowerment, so I think today is the day to say that. The cooperation through its partnership with SKYE, which is implemented by GIZ on behalf of the German Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development and the Swiss Agency for Development Cooperation, is the main reason why I am here today, to show the support to the Inter-Bau Foundation and its doings. Hence, I extend my congratulations to the Inter-Bau Foundation and partners for convening the timely sensitization and advocacy forum as we enter the month of March and reflect on International Women's Day, which usually is celebrated on March 8th. This year's focus on rights and justice speaks directly to access, particularly institutional access for women within public procurement systems. Public procurement is one of the most powerful economic tools available to governments. The national policy of affirmative procurement presents a concrete opportunity to translate commitments into practice by expanding women's participation in tenders, strengthening institutional procedures, and embedding accountability mechanisms that enable inclusive growth and job creation. Switzerland remains supportive of initiatives that promote inclusive economic development. Advancing gender-responsive procurement requires collaboration among government, private sectors, and development partners to ensure that women-led enterprises are not only trained, but positioned to access contracts, scale their businesses, and create employment. Thank you for your attention and profit very well from the next few panel discussions and conversations that you will have here. Use this network opportunity to connect and mingle. Thank you very much for your attention. Wishing you a fabulous day.
Just right down here. So madam, if you could just wait just here in front. Yes, Ms. Doris will lead you, and would like please the Director General of the Bureau for Public Procurement to join the picture, and Ms. Bank of Industry. Thank you. Thank you. Her Goodwill remarks was very Swiss, it was efficient, and it was precise, and it was short. Thank you, madam. And we can borrow a leaf from her book. All right, I think we'll be going online now for our next Goodwill message, and it will be from Dr. Karin Jansen, I believe, yes, the First Secretary and Head of Development Cooperation at the German Embassy. Do we have her online, and are we ready? Igboka, the Program Component Manager, Skills Development for Youth Employment, the SKYE 2 program at GIZ, who will be representing Ms. Brichter van Ekkelens, who is the Head of Department, or rather Head of Programs, I apologize, Head of Programs at the GIZ SKYE. Welcome, Helen. Please make her feel welcome as she comes up to give her Goodwill message. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Good morning. Please permit me to stand on already existing protocol. I stand here to give you this goodwill remark on behalf of my head of program, Ms. Brichter van Ekkelens. And what you're going to be hearing from me is a goodwill from her. As Nigeria advances the national policy on affirmative procurement, we recognize that public procurement is not merely an administrative function, but a powerful strategic instrument for expanding economic participation by widening access to women and youth-led enterprises. Procurement reforms can stimulate enterprise growth, strengthen supply chains, and generate decent employment at scale. The SKYE 2 program is part of the GIZ Nigeria and ECOWAS Sustainable Economic Development Cluster, SEDEC. Established in 2019 and commissioned by the German Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development, BMZ, with a co-financing from the Swiss Agency for Development and Cooperation, SDC. We are operating across 5 states: Lagos, Edo, Plateau, Ogun, Enugu, and the Federal Capital Territory. SKYE 2 aims to increase the prospect of gainful employment for Nigerian youths by promoting needs-based technical and vocational education and training, TVET, in labor-intensive sectors, providing labor market information and strengthening pathways into employment. These efforts are delivered through 5 key components, with youth and women at the center of all our interventions. Since 2021, our partnerships with Inter-Bau Foundation has generated measurable progress and increasing women's participation in Nigeria's construction sector. Through industry engagement, strengthen institutional collaboration between private companies and the TVET institution, and targeted awareness creation, such as this one that we are currently experiencing, as well as capacity development. This initiative has expanded access to training and employment opportunities while advancing gender-responsive practices within the construction sector. Today, as we extend special appreciation to Inter-Bau Foundation for its leadership and active contribution to the technical working group that actually ensured that this procurement policy is being developed, and also for its very committed hard work in ensuring that it conveyed this important forum today. We also commend the Bureau of Public Procurement under the leadership of Dr. Adebowale Adedokun for its continued leadership in advancing the critical agenda and the reform that we are going to be experiencing in the coming months. As we enter the International Women's Month and as we commemorate the International Women's Day, we encourage you all, the stakeholders here present, as well as those online, to carry the insights from today's discussion into all dialogue platforms, the public spaces across programs, into all discussions, to ensure that we have a more informed and more aware citizens that will be able to benefit from the affirmative procurement. Inclusive procurement, as you all know, is not just a matter of fairness. It is also a catalyst for sustainable economic transformation. We remain committed to supporting efforts and initiatives that promote inclusive and sustainable economic opportunities for all. Thank you very much, and I wish us a very productive engagement today. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. Thank you very much. Please, let's keep applauding till she exits the stage. Thank you. Thank you. We'll be going online now, and just confirming that Dr. Karin Jansen, the First Secretary and Head of Development Cooperation at the German Embassy, is online, and we are on standby for her goodwill message.
Reflects our shared commitment to advancing equitable access to rights, representation and resources for Nigerian women and girls. The German government commends Inter-Bau Foundation for its exemplary leadership in expanding opportunities for women in Nigeria's construction sector, an industry that contributes roughly 9% to national GDP and remains one of the country's largest sources of employment. Development and cooperation, the gap between skills development and private sector demand is being addressed and inclusive growth fostered. Public procurement remains a powerful economic instrument, particularly in construction and infrastructure. The forthcoming national policy on affirmative procurement presents a meaningful opportunity to strengthen women-led enterprises, which is an essential and growing segment of Nigeria's SME sector, by improving their access to contracts, supporting business expansion and stimulating sustainable job creation. Germany remains firmly committed to increasing women's participation across economic sectors. This commitment is reflected in our development cooperation through the Sustainable Economic Development Cluster, and particularly the implementation support by SKYE 2 program for skills development, active labor, market measures, policy reform, gender-responsive budgeting at subnational level, and the mainstreaming of gender within the construction industry. We also strive to reflect the affirmative procurement principles in our own procurement processes by encouraging the engagement of women service providers. To further highlight, GIZ Nigeria and ECOWAS have an ongoing formalized collaboration with UN Women through a memorandum of understanding focused on advancing gender equality and women's empowerment. This partnership promotes gender-responsive governance, planning and budgeting, education and women's leadership across key sectors. commends the Bureau of Public Procurement and Inter-Bau Foundation for their efforts in advancing awareness and dialogue that will both ensure institutional readiness and ownership of the policy. This effectiveness of the forthcoming policy will rest on the clear procedures, transparent criteria, reliable sex-disaggregated data, and strong accountability mechanisms to ensure that inclusive procurement translate into enterprise growth, quality employment, and sustained economic impact. I encourage us to carry this conversation beyond this forum and into International Women's Month and the months ahead, sustaining the momentum and deepening engagement with all actors across the procurement value chain. Germany remains engaged through the work of GIZ and its partners in advancing inclusive economic development. Thank you all for your presence and partnership. Congratulations to Inter-Bau Foundation and the Bureau of Public Procurement on this important milestone. We look forward to deepening our cooperation and shaping a more inclusive procurement landscape together. Thank you very much.
We will now be moving on to the keynote address. And in this address, we will be hearing an overview of Nigeria's National Affirmative Procurement Policy, which is a policy to advance inclusive growth through public procurement. Adebowale A. Adedokun, the DG of the Federal Bureau of Public Procurement. I will introduce you, sir, and then invite you up. Because you are a seasoned technocrat, a professional, and a leader with a big vision, so you deserve to be introduced properly. Dr. Adebowale Adedokun is a renowned procurement expert and the current Director General, Chief Executive Officer at the Bureau of Public Procurement. He's a fellow of the renowned Chartered Institute of Procurement and Supply UK, a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport, and an accredited Chief Fraud Examiner. With over 20 years of experience in public service, he has made significant contributions to procurement reforms in Nigeria. Dr. Adedokun holds a PhD in procurement and supply chain management, along with several master's degrees in procurement, finance, technology, and transportation management. He has served as a national consultant for the United Nations Development Programme, UNDP, on procurement, public procurement reforms, and represents Nigeria in the international research study on public procurement. Dr. Adedokun is also a World Bank resource person on sustainable procurement and has trained over 8,000 federal and state government procurement professionals nationwide. Ladies and gentlemen, please make Dr. Adebowale Adedokun welcome as he comes up to the state SFE, as he comes up forward. Thank you.
Good morning, women present here. And I say good morning to us men who are in the minority this morning. Can you please clap for us? To remain on all the protocols that have been established. The only thing I will say is to acknowledge the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, who happened to be my boss, and who happened to be the person pushing us to do what you think I am doing. Also acknowledge the very motherly role of the First Lady of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as well, whom I tag the champion of affirmative procurement in Nigeria. And also permit me to acknowledge the very unique arrangements we have seen this morning. I must congratulate Inter-Bau Foundation, the support of the various development partners, and of course I will not stop by acknowledging my own team as well, for supporting this very sweet, official and looking radiant, for us to know that we're on the right track. So I want to say thank you very much for doing this. Today alone, I'm engaged in about 2 other activities already in this same town. But I have placed priority to this particular event for several reasons. So permit me to make some general remarks, then that will situate my keynote address. For me, I grew up in a polygamous family where the mothers really fend for their own children. And when you have gone through that kind of an experience, you will know that motherhood makes the difference in a family. You will understand clearly that even fathers succeeded or are succeeding primarily because of the ingenuity of the role women play in their lives. For me, because of poverty at some point, I realized that without my mother, I wouldn't have been where I am today. You see, a mother with just as little as you can imagine will be able to translate that little to wealth. I'm sure many of you can resonate with what I'm saying. That is very significant that we realize substantially what empowering women can do to a congregation, to a nation, and to keeping stability of peace, fairness, and accountability in any nation. So I'm very clear with the directive of my boss, and I'm very clear to where I'm going to in order to ensure that Nigeria quickly moves into the era of having what President said, $1 trillion economy, and how to empower women, the youth, and those with disability. You won't be able to appreciate the role, what we're trying to do now. You won't appreciate it much. In any way, we're not competing with the men. We're only trying to complement what they bring to the table. For instance, no matter how good a man is in cooking a good soup, when you ignore the expertise of the women in the house, you may enjoy the food, but really the touch, the all the other things surrounding how well you present the food, how well you present the concoction, as the case may be, still lies with the women. So I'm very clear that the way forward in this country has to do with how we mainstream the role of our women, the role of the youth, and the role of those with disability. For a very long time, we have not raised the bar to acknowledge that at least we have equal percentage of men and women, including those with disability in this country. Go and check your statistics. So you cannot wish away the significant numbers this group of people play in any economy, in any social empowerment, in any safety and security of a nation. This group of people play a very significant role. Over the last decade, one of the key missing ingredients is that we have not institutionalized, we have not mainstreamed the role of this group of people in how we conduct our procurement, both in the private and in the public sector. Again, the missing link over the last decade plus had been that we have not mainstreamed this group into the wider organization and implementation of our procurement activities. If you look carefully you will discover that in the last decade, we provide some form of palliative, some form of support for this group. It looks as if we see them as, well, let's just do something for them. But that's not the truth. Who are the best brains? Who are the prime movers of economic ingenuity, both nationally and internationally? Check Nigeria very well. Today, I can count on my fingertips. The Chief Justice of the Federation is a woman. If you go further, the Director General of WTO is a woman. It's not just because they're a woman, but look at the impact, the kind of ideas, the kind of, revolution they are bringing into the cost space they work. Are you looking at those with disabilities? We have them in entertainment. We have them in construction. We have them in the IT industry. Again, you see these people playing very significant role in our development and even the security of our nation. Do you want to look at the youth? I saw a young man taking a picture yesterday, and I said, wow, a youth is making a living from just being ingenious in how he carries out his photographic business. I asked him, do you want to work in the government? He said, no, sir. I'm good enough, just doing this, good enough for me. Why did he say that? Because he saw an opportunity. He's been given an opportunity to express his what? Talent and gift. He's making enough money that does not need to work in a government establishment. That gathering is no longer that we want to, we will do and implement a national policy on affirmative procurement in this country. It's no longer where will it be? It is happening now. Why am I saying it's happening now? It's because for the first time in the history of this nation, there's strong collaboration between the critical stakeholders. Who are they? The Office of Mr. President, the Office of the First Lady, Ministry of Women Affairs, where my good sister is not yet right now. We have Ministry of Education. I add to the list of recent Federal Ministry of Health and Social Welfare. We have with us our development partners. Ladies and gentlemen, check statistically, globally. You will identify that many countries have moved far ahead of Nigeria. Even in Africa and sub-regional countries, they already have in place affirmative program, legal framework. Already, Nigeria needs to move quickly to be at par with all the other countries. So, let me just go to the structure of my presentation. I'm sure, because I also train, so I'm unable to just stay in one particular location. I like to move, and I'm sure you don't mind as you follow me through. I've laid the foundation for you to understand clearly, develop your nation without empowering this group of people. Let me say clearly, we are not begging. Clearly, we are not asking that we should be treated as an equal partner. That's not the issue. What we're doing is that give us the same opportunity that the other group have. We are ready to be competitive, but let's give us that same platform that the men and others have. I hope that is very clear. I'm very sure no woman or this group of people wants to be treated as if let's give them something. We are as competitive as the other group. But what we lack, basically, is the framework. It is the legal basis for us to ensure compliance. That's what we are trying to do now. Create the enabling environment for you and others to be given the right atmosphere to compete and to be given the opportunity to be safeguarded against what we know. Sometimes we know that because of our vulnerability, sometimes we could be challenged, and yet there is no legal backup to defend you. But that's what this policy is going to do. So, this is the whole structure of the presentation in addition to what I've said. Next slide. Please go on to the next slide. So basically, what is this policy all about? Keyword is a strategic policy that kind of prioritizes target groups: women-owned or led, persons with disability, youth, and for the first time, we're bringing veterans into the whole ecosystem. Veterans. You'll be asking, why veterans? Veterans could be from the military or paramilitary. We have people who are 80 years old. They are veterans, but they are very strong. They can bring in a lot of experiences, a lot of strength. I can mention some of them who are still alive today. But we think that once they are retired, once they retire from service, either in the private or in public, we no longer think that they can add any more value. In fact, they are the best brains at that level. So we have brought them into the ecosystem. Basically, this policy is to promote inclusivity, diversity, and sustainable development through public procurement. Mind the public procurement, as far as the third world is concerned, is the highest spender. Once you do not bring this group into the public sector, we'll still be struggling. Public sector procurement carries the larger job of national priorities and development. So I'm proud today we are beginning to see some paradigm shifts in some banks, foundation trying to now say, oh, there's something new. Let's begin to look at it. So what are the core objectives, like you already know? Promote social inclusion, reduce inequality, and feminize poverty, give us equity, participation in government contracts. Over 10 years ago, we developed a solution called Contractors, Consultant, and Service Provider Database. That body in government, as a woman-owned business, you don't need to. It's going to be online driven. And that would mean that you don't need to really go to somebody's offices. The opportunities will be thrown at you on your phone and as well in the comfort of your homes. So that sexual harassment will be a thing of the past because you don't need to go. Once you don't go, they don't see you. That's very key in this policy that we are talking about. Again, you could see that public procurement represents about 10 to 25% of our GDP. Presently, just about 5% is being spent, or even below 1%. So there's a lot of reasons why you must support this policy. And you need to get up from where you are in your various constituencies and say, come, let's support this. Let's make this work. It's very key that in our churches, in our mosques, in our various weekly society group meetings, begin to send this clearly that there's a new paradigm shift on how we want to deliver this. On my fingertips, the people producing PPEs, the people producing all these quick snacks, that we see all around, they are women. But how many of them really have been given the right atmosphere to go global? The industry, construction industry, really, how much of the women, if you say a woman designed a building for you, and you compare it without being, I mean, you see that they are so detailed in their thinking. So we need to bring them in so that we can have a better Nigeria. The next slide. We looked at it strategically, and we know that we have women-owned and women-led businesses. For the first time, when I met Doris, I didn't know that she was in the construction industry. I was still saying, I was still trying to put down on her. Disabilities, veterans, elderly, and internally displaced persons. This group face systemic barriers despite strong entrepreneurial potential and expert skills that is required in public sector. I'm sure you all agree. Even you sitting down there, you know your worth as a woman. Next slide. The definition is very key. We need for women-owned and women-led businesses. We're saying businesses where women own majority ownership, 51% plus, or serve as CEOs or MDs with significant operational control. So if you are here and you are listening, you need to begin to adjust your corporate governance structure. It's very key to begin to address it. What I will not accept in this policy, God helping us, is a one portfolio woman-owned business. Because it's not sustainable. Or you are the chief executive, you are the treasurer or the accounting officer, or you are the financial controller, then even in store, in dispense of the material, you are still the one. Then you are not ready for this. That's the kind of change. So women need to not only say we have a policy, they also must align with global best practices. Structure is key. I mean, as a procurement specialist, when I see a document from women-led businesses and I see that it's just about you, I know that I can't trust you with government funding. It's very simple. Because there's no structure. Challenges that this group faces: access to finance, limited networks, gender bias in contract award, and structural barriers in male-dominated industry. That's very true. But for me, is that we want to find solution. That's just it. We can no longer continue to dwell on what is not. Let us begin to look at a gradual, systematic approach in solving the problem. And that's what we're doing. Youth-owned enterprises. Again, the age is between 18 and 35, and we have thousands of them scattered all over this federation. I'm working with Smidan. Smidan is small, medium. They have huge portfolios. So now we're signing an MOU with the Smidan group so that we can unleash the potentials of youth in public sector procurement. And that has to happen soon. Their challenges, again, is that limited capital, collateral. So this policy, at the end of the day, we look at how do we reduce the eligibility criteria that makes it practically impossible for you to win. So we'll address all that as we go in this policy. For instance, you could see collateral. I mean, go to China, go to South Africa, Chile, Benin Republic. All of these, they have a way of streamlining the demands on these groups. We should be able to trust you with resources because you are prudent. Women are prudent, except for few. Women are prudent. You can't give a woman some money and come back 10 years later, you still find that money. That's the truth. Okay, so this policy is to address all this. And then, of course, unemployment that we see is a result of the fact that we have not mainstreamed all of this. Next slide. Okay. Persons with disability. I'm sure you are all aware that there is a commission in Nigeria about those with disability. By law. By law. So now we are bringing them into the ecosystem. By the way, you see, public procurement is an enabler. I mean, is the fulcrum of how to get everybody into the system. For instance, if BPP plays its role, which you are not playing, all we need to do is to put necessary guidelines and policy to force government agencies and institutions to comply. Failure to do it is also a failure to comply with the legal provision, which is also jailable. That's the direction now, is to bring BPP to enforce. And failure to enforce, or if you fail to do it, means that you have violated the provisions of the law. And then we can then recommend you, irrespective of who you are, for appropriate punishment. It's a matter of bringing the policies live. So we know who they are and we know what they need. So for instance, for those of you who are in public sector, you know there's what they call standard bidding documents. Am I correct? Tender documents. For the first time, we will be putting into tender documents provisions for every government agency to allocate a certain percentage for this group of people. That's how it's going to work. So you are not going to be begging. I hope I'm communicating. The era of going to go to offices to beg. By this bidding document, it will be a thing of the past, and it will be done electronically. Okay? Again, veterans, the same group of people that we have spoken. Next slide. What are the benefits? Believe you me, the easiest way to grow a nation is to make sure affirmative procurement is taken seriously. A country will grow fast. Like before you wake up, you see tremendous turnaround. Again, if my mom calls me today and said, she won't even call me doctor, or maybe come here, Adebowale. You know when you have a mother, she's still your boss. Am I correct? Your mother is your boss. Say, my friend, come. Go and do it this way. If you are a wise child, you will listen. God is full of wisdom in them. When you see a woman my mom can construct a house for you without being an architect. You better listen. So now, if women begin to speak loudly, we will back to you because we know you carry a weight. But you can no longer be in the inner room, be in the front room. Job creation and economic empowerment, promote diversity and inclusivity, drive business efficiency and competitiveness, reduce poverty, drive national development across communities, business growth and sustainability. Have you noticed that in communities, women, there's a limit to which you can enter somebody's house and enter anywhere. So that's the kind of thinking behind this. Business growth, skills and capacity development, financial empowerment, address youth restiveness and insecurity. Skill gap, we have to upscale. What this policy intends to do is to upscale our capacity to do the needful. Because you need to understand the eligibility requirements to do business in the public sector. We need to find this policy. We throw out technical assistance from our partners and government to upscale the capacity of this group of people to do business. It will be unfair for me to ask you to go and bring a collateral that you don't have. But government has to find a way of providing that collateral by government for you to do the job. So, next slide. So these are the stakeholders, like I mentioned: women affairs, humanitarian affairs, disaster management and social development, federal institutions, financial institutions, include finance, central bank of industry, African Development Bank, MOFI, many of them, development partners. We have so many that we have seen. Then civil society groups, NGOs, professional bodies, private sector, and targeted groups. I throw a challenge to professional bodies. this is my challenge, that let's leave the traditional way of running professional bodies and be creative. In every professional bodies, what are the roles of this group in management of those professional bodies? How many of them are we throwing out, supporting them from behind to make a difference? So professional bodies need to readdress how they themselves need to begin to think affirmative way. For government to do what is needful, professional bodies need to realign their own policies and organizational structure to reflect this new policy. We cannot succeed in public sector except the private sector changes their approach. Next slide. How this policy will create opportunities, I mentioned them, reservation of procurement opportunities. Just only last week, I was at National Assembly, and one of the key reforms we spoke about is affirmative procurement. What did they ask us to do? They asked us to bring an amendment to the Public Procurement Act 2007 to have this policy included as an act of National Assembly. I mean, aren't you excited about that? The National Assembly itself is also saying bring up the necessary legislation to further strengthen the policy you are introducing. Special opportunities to Nigerian and Nigerian-led businesses. So for instance, in automobile, for instance, we need to, this policy says that Nigerian manufactured vehicles will be given priority in government. That's what it means. So if you are a woman into assembly of tricycle machines, for instance, so it means if any government agency will buy vehicles, exports, means that you must buy Nigerian produced vehicles. That's what it means. And please believe me, that's it. It's going to happen. But don't be left behind. Those I didn't tell you. You understand what I mean? Subcontracting requirements in standard bidding document. So large contractors will be mandated to also provide subcontracting to these groups. Joint bidding. This is key. You need to begin to form joint ventures, either locally or internationally, in your area of specialization. Why? Because so that when you are bidding, they will say, where's your job experience? But you say, I have a joint venture. That qualifies you. So don't be too local. Create partnership. It's very key. So you can do joint bidding. I mentioned the CCSP database. So right now, part of the outcome of this stakeholder is that we must begin to really keep a national database of women-owned led business. I need to know. I mean, statistically, can I get that list? So that when I'm speaking, I'm talking statistically, can we produce that kind of a data that everybody will know? This is what this policy intends to achieve. Strategy, lower entry barriers, which I've said already. I'm sure you all know all the requirements. You must have the turnover of so. You must have been in business for this. Oh, you must have paid this, and so on and so forth. We're working around all those policies. Next slide. Then, DPP will work hand in hand with, of course, what I've said, we are going to be collaborating, including states. Mind you, I didn't, in all my conversation, please take note, the directive of President is to bring state governments into the ecosystem and the local government into the space. So I'm not just talking for federal, I'm also talking that it's inclusive of, we expect states to automatically adopt. Once this is launched nationally, it's expected that every other state would do that. Okay, so the framework is including of sensitization, awareness, procurement planning, capacity building. So I expect that right now you begin to identify some people that will undergo public procurement training. You can't do this without understanding public sector procurement. You need an officer in your system that you can send to BPP to trade online. You don't need to go physical. We have an online trading platform. So please take note of this. Even banks, begin to add somebody that can understand public sector procurement. It's key that you do that. Next slide. So the governance structure, the law is very clear, section 6 of the Act. We have a technical working group. We're going to create in units in FDA under the procurement department. There will be a unit that will focus mainly on affirmative, which has not existed before. Then we have an omnibus mechanism. You know, we have tax omnibusman too. We're going to create it in this direction. Then data-driven monitoring and performance scorecard. This will also be key. Monitoring tools. We're going to use a lot of real time in terms of monitoring and also record keeping and then compliance tracking and enforcement. The way it is, you see, until you punish somebody, people don't take it seriously. I'm sure you know that. Sanctions. Hopefully, by the time we implement or we start implementation, and I'm hoping one person will just disobey the law. I'm hoping. Then we use that person as a scapegoat to show that we're not joking, that the president means what he's saying on this matter. Next slide. Okay, so the outcomes increase participation of target groups in public procurement. Again, all of this I have already said. The outcome in total is that procurement that works for Nigerians. That's the summary. Procurement that works for Nigerians, not for a select group of people. Next slide. So my message to you, affirmative procurement is a practical pathway for building an inclusive government. What are our next steps? Finalize the operational guidelines, deploy the CCSP dimension for us to capture who are all these group of people, do a pilot for capacity training, begin baseline data generation for measuring progress, and my closing line will be affirmative procurement will deliver development to all Nigerians. That is our submission. Affirmative procurement will, and I mean it, will deliver development to all Nigerians. Next slide. And I want to say a big thank you for listening to me. Before I hand over to her, please give us all that you think can make this work, because we think we know it all. We are saying to you, share with us your thoughts. Tell us what you think can enhance this. By doing this, we're going to enter into the global space where Nigeria becomes compliant, and then direct investments will become even much easier and faster, because no country in the world looks down on this group. So when we integrate this into the system, globally, we will attract. Permit me to tell you, in China today, we are holding back to signing 1 or 2 agreements because they said we do not have a policy on affirmative procurement. That has denied us strategic investment from China. Together with the Minister of Women, she can tell you that. So we need to work quickly and faster in developing this policy and operationalizing it so that we can get that jump of support from all these other places. Once again, thank you very much, and God bless.
Thank you so much, sir, for that amazing presentation. Please let's give to Adedokun. We've heard a lot, and I'll just attempt to recap, just to make sure his points are fresh in our minds. He talks about inclusive governance and stability
for the elderly and internally displaced persons, because they play critical roles that must be fully institutionalized within public procurement systems. National policy on affirmative procurement. He spoke about the policy, how it strategically prioritizes women-owned and youth-owned businesses, people with disabilities, and other vulnerable groups to promote social inclusion, reduce inequality, and address feminized poverty. He spoke of procurement as a tool for reform, Affirmative procurement lowers entry barriers, expands participation without compromising value for money, and reduces risks such as sexual harassment through limited human contact, making the system virtual. Very innovative. I think that deserves a round of applause. And of course, last but not least, collaboration and accountability, strong partnerships with MDAs, supported by governance, monitoring, and capacity building will ensure a procurement system that truly works for Nigeria. We're very excited. Thank you so much, sir, for demystifying the policy. I hope you are not leaving soon. There will be, I'm sure, lots of questions that people have and comments that they want to make and clarifications, since this is it. Sorry, sir, I can't. So are you around? I hope you're not leaving. Okay. A couple more Goodwill messages, and then we'll go into our first panel session where we'll be moving and really now distilling the policy into practice. We have Olamide Oshodi, the Gender Business Department of Bank of Industry, who will be coming up to take her Goodwill message. Please make her feel welcome as she comes up. Olamide Oshodi, welcome, madam.
Like she said, my name is Olamide Oshodi, and I work with BOI, Gender Business Desk. So I think I have 2 minutes or less just to give a Goodwill message. So, gender business and Bank of Industry. Over the years, Bank of Industry has pioneered support and businesses products on how to support women and women in business. To this end, the Gender Business Group was created just so that we can actually focus, and address challenges that women face in business. During the keynote speech, I saw one of the issues that was raised, the barriers, access to finance, collateral, and the general stereotype that people have against women in business. And so because of this, it's one of the reasons why BOI actually set up the Gender Business Desk. We are poised to support women in business across various sectors. And very recently, we launched our first female-focused financial product and solution, which we call the GLOW. The GLOW is guaranteed loan for women and is meant for women-owned businesses alone. So I'm happy the DG mentioned that that qualification is about at least 51% ownership, and so we try to follow that. The good thing about the GLOW product is that the collateral structure and interest rate has been reduced just so that we can support women in businesses. You can imagine a loan going for as low as 7% per annum, and that's what GLOW does. 7% per annum, no additional fees or charges, and you can give as long as 5 years or 3 years, depending on what you want to do with it. Once again, I would like to say that we are here to support, and we are happy to be here. Please visit us. You can check us up online, Bank of Industry, and then you see what we have to offer. Outside the GLOW product as well, we also have various, products and solutions. We also do a lot of collaborations with agencies and NGOs, and we'll be willing to partner with you. Thank you very much.
Begin the process of introducing our moderator for this panel session. She is Omomi Olumide Obidinro. Omomi is an alumna of the Faculty of Law, Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife, Nigeria. She's also an alum of the University of San Diego School of Law program at Sorbonne, Paris, and the Venture in Management program of the Lagos Business School. She's a chartered arbitrator who has spent the last 23 years mining the industry, academia, governance nexus, to help build multi-sector, multicultural, and multinational development networks across Africa in education, employment, enterprise, and innovation. She's a member of Nigeria's delegation to the 93rd session of the International Labour Organization, Geneva, Switzerland, and a former Heinrich Böll Fellow to the International Telecommunications Union. She's also a founding member of the Alexandria, Egypt-based Youth Employment Summit Network. Mo, as we fondly call her, has also worked on several human and industrial capital projects within the African development context for the Economic Commission for Africa, the Employment Policy Review for the World Bank, and also for the Clinton Global Initiative. Beyond her role as founder executive director at the ORCID, she is also responsible for lots of private sector development and advocacy work, including interfacing and facilitating opportunities for trade and bilateral policies and partnerships. In 2023, she was named inaugural board chair for the Organized Private Sector Nigeria-led Sector Skills Council on Textiles, Apparel, and Garments with support from GIZ, SKYE, and SKYE. And she actively works to break unproductive silos by networking people, policies, and practice via technical working groups and think tanks, including the CIFA AU NEPAD Skills for Initiative Africa, and many, many, many more. She serves on boards and governing councils with the mantra, community is currency. Ladies and gentlemen, let's make welcome our moderator for the afternoon panel sessions, Mo Olamide Obidio. Welcome, Mo.
Thank you, Fabian. Thank you, everyone. Please, another round of applause for yourselves this time. I think I'll make my this afternoon, and while thanking everyone who has already spoken, who sent a message, who's in the room, I want to say also that I'm very appreciative that both Inter-Bau Foundation and the GIZ SKYE program have been able to pull this panel together. Allow me to get right into calling them up here so you can delve in together with us. Very importantly on this panel, not because anybody else is less important, of the procurement department for the BPP, and currently she also heads the energy infrastructure department. She's engineer Eugenia Ojia, and I'm very glad to welcome her on this panel. She's also a central part of all the other panels because she has an eye on the policy like no one else. Also on this panel, I have with me Mrs. Adenike Adebowale Ajala, NCIPM. She's Director of Social Labor Affairs for the Nigerian Employers Consultative Association, NECA. Also, I have Ms. Adiola Sanwo, Head Contractor Registration Department, Lagos State Public Procurement Agency. Mrs. Jamila Fani, CEO, M&E Kaiser Construction Limited. This assortment of people will allow us to have an insight on, now that we have a policy in the offing, how to get from policy to practice, positioning women-owned, women-led, and gender-responsive businesses for inclusive procurement success, and also looking at case studies from the construction and built environment. If they are in the room, it would be a good time to have them all up here. Thank you.
I love women. Another round of applause. Public procurement is very dirty waters, even for men, and much more for women. And that is why I'm going to start with Mrs. Eugenia Ogier, because you know the genesis of this policy. And I want to start with you by asking, what can target group businesses do now to be prepared and ready to access the opportunities that this policy will present in terms of necessary documentations, registrations, positioning? What should anyone who has listened to the fantastic keynote address of the DG and has said, okay, yes, we're moving and we want to be ready for Nigeria to be at par with other nations, what can we do stepping forward from there? Over to you, ma'am.
Good morning to everyone who's here today. I'd like to first of all tell everyone to get interested, those that want to make things work. It's very easy to criticize from outside or to say they won't let us, but you have to come to the room. Now the room is open via the upcoming National Affirmative Procurement. So first thing I'll say to the target groups, to women-owned businesses, women-led businesses, businesses owned by youths, persons with disability, is to say be interested. Demand information. The BPP is very open. Our website is functional. We're going to be putting up a lot of information about the policy when it's up and running. Get interested, prepare yourself to say how, register your business. Register your business. There is what did you talk about, the CCSP, the Contractor Consultant Service Provider database. Is a database that hosts all businesses that are willing to do business with federal government. If you want to participate in public contracting, the first thing you do is register your business. With CAC, come on to the DPP CCSP and register your business. That's the first thing. Improve your skills, upscale what you do, hone your skills, collaborate with other SMEs. If you're already big, get the small, medium skill under your wings, mentorship, collaboration, shared resources. We need to begin to know, you heard Digi say there is no one man's code. This is women looking out for women, youth looking out for youth. It's all inclusive. So open up your doors for other.
And this is true, cuts across, all sectors. No, all classes. I'm talking about construction, particularly construction professions. When we entered university in our first year, we're usually the guys, of course, the male representation is usually higher. And then we get to our second year, it reduces. Yeah. We get to our third year, it reduces again. By the time we're graduating, we're a handful of women graduating from those classes. Now, these are women that are putting themselves out, trying to break barriers, trying to do the almost impossible. And then we now get to the point where we expect the government to support us. And we get, I'm sorry to say, engineer, it's not zero support, but we don't see it. We don't even know where it is. We don't know where to find it. When I received the invitation, and Doris confirmed to me that I was going to be on the panel, I had an idea of the kind of questions that were going to be asked, and I knew that these questions were not mine to answer. I sent out a notification to the built industry, to professional bodies and all of that. I said, I'm looking for women-led women, businesses. And we had a meeting yesterday. They sent me to you. They said that she shattered the table. Yes.
Let's deliver it in a few seconds.
Shatter the table, Jamila, don't hold anything. So please, anything I say here, I'm usually a very calm and polite person, but anything I say here, please, I'm saying it on behalf of someone, the message, so don't shoot me. There is no access to information. We don't even know when the businesses are happening. We see projects going on. I'm talking about construction industry specifically. And there are qualified women
that, I mean, I was speaking to a woman piling contractor. Do you know how hard that can be? I'm sure you understand. She's piling, and she's doing it exceedingly well.
So what structural changes can we, let's assume that we have that power in the room right now.
Yes.
We can send Mrs. Eugenia back to DG. And the Honorable Minister of Women Affairs is also listening somewhere. What structural changes could we effect that will improve the lot of this, not just women-owned businesses in your sector, but all the groups that are represented here?
What we're asking for is transparency. Transparency in registration, transparency in access. In fact, not just transparency. We don't, you know, women have this, we shy away.
From Lagos State perspective, what practical lessons, what experiences have you garnered that can help inform the national implementation in such a way that the results will be seen, felt, and assented to by the people for whom this policy has been made?
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone.
This is just a confirmation. I'm glad that you have mentioned this, because I think one of the things that I would like to take away from this particular session is that the stakeholder base gunning for implementation has to be rich, has to be extremely rich. It has to also be out there. There has to be a lot of information put out. And as these are my takeaways from this session, and I think I speak the mind of a lot of people in the room as well, I want to ask you, now seeing the things that we agreed we need to do, one word from you on what the next implementation step for any organization, whether you're a business management organization, you're a woman, what should I do next? One word.
What should they do next?
Yes, what should I do next?
Well,
Partner up. Mrs. Ogier, what should I do next?
Come out of your shell.
Come out of your shell, fantastic. What should I do next?
Join a network.
Join a network. Yes, because there is power in numbers.
Create your own club. Create your own club. You don't have to join the existing clubs, create your own club.
Fantastic. They said, if there's no seat for you at the table, build your own. Our time was incredibly cut short to accommodate all of the many goodwill speeches that went on earlier. But I'm very grateful for your participation. I'm very grateful for your contribution. I would just like to say to anybody who is either listening online or in the room, if you need more information on what steps to take, there is a desk open at the back of the room where the Inter-Bau Foundation has their staff. You can easily go there, get more information, or even provide evidence of your participation here and your willingness to be contacted at a future date. Right now we'll take some questions. I told that we can accommodate some questions. I thought that we were totally out of time. But if you have questions in the room as well, this is where we can take them. I'll take maybe two very quickly if I see hands up.
Thank you. Good morning or afternoon, everyone. Firstly, my name is Mrs. Elisa Onyema, MNI. I'm the Managing Director of Every Nigeria. Of course, Every Nigeria right to industrial weighing equipment and coding equipment is a men-dominated business for now. Okay. Firstly, let me commend the ladies, the panelists. You've done a good job. But something I must say, you see, it's easier to speak all of this. I heard what the DG was saying, and the DG representative was talking about they are just a regulator. That is a very powerful statement. You know, you can see all of this you want to say. If the people on top does not want it to happen, we have all kinds of policies in this country, all kinds of stuff written. And you see that we have written policies for government. So many. It's the will of
sympathize when
Mrs. Fanny
was talking about, oh, they said go and shut down the table and whatever they asked her to do. Let me tell you something. It's not an easy thing. It's a collective responsibility.
Right.
One person cannot do it.
Right.
Even the head cannot do it. Because these are things that we will shout to. Women dominating women is putting behind. Of course, we don't really help ourselves as well.
Now the question will be, the question to her.
Mine is, I'm all contributing.
Right,
it's
right.
Not just
great.
Questions today.
Yeah.
You have to contribute to tell your people that.
Fantastic.
Yes,
Her point, we hear your point, ma'am. And I'm going to summarize your point as we all need to get at the table because no one person can do it all. And I appreciate that.
People here cannot solve the
problem. Look, take my name down. If we don't get there, come and find me in Abuja.
And I see representing the president of the Nigerian Center of Engineers, Ali Masuyara, the FNS. Right. So mine is more of a suggestion and contribution, and I can relate to what my sister said about form your own club.
Yeah.
I beg to differ. In my office, I'm the only female on the board. I work in a consulting firm, and I can tell you that sometimes, because of our numbers in the built environment, it's difficult to form your own club.
Right.
Because you are tiered in so many parts.
Right.
So there is something that the Association of Professional Women Engineers of Nigeria, APOMD, which I want us to connect through. I've shared the Lagos chapter in 2010 and the 5th branch. There is a club, there was a policy we pushed for 30% club.
Yeah.
That is every organization. You aim to have 30% female on your board.
Right.
So if in the consulting side you have 30% in your organization, and in the construction you have 30%, what does that tell you? We're growing and it makes it easier. So if I need to consult, I can come to you because you have more women that understand the language they don't want to hear.
Right.
I mean, she mentioned the language. We all know the language. You don't need to say it.
Right.
But the more we had, the merrier. So I'm saying that all of us, here and here,
yes,
we need to look at the existing policy we've pushed,
yes,
and make it work. And not create new things that we just have many things inside. Let's look at all the policy and make it real.
I agree. And in all, while you're making your way to the next question, in order to also give context, this policy has not exactly happened. So we have the opportunity to work all of this into it. And we'll be borrowing a leaf from you. One thing you said that stands out for me is that you've made it work. But it didn't start there. In environments that are traditionally and historically unfair to women, it is going to take a bit of a while to get to the point where you're now talking about this. First of all, if there's not enough women in, say, construction, so if you have only 3 women in the entire company, getting 3 women on the board may not even be sufficient to achieve parity. So we have a lot of work to do to step back as well, to be able to get even more women in those fields before we now get them accessing certain things. So it's a journey, we'll get there step by step. Next question.
Energy, oil and gas Lagos. I want to commend Inter-Bau Foundation for this strategic discourse. As women in energy, oil and gas, we are very keen on increasing women's participation, particularly in the areas of procurement, contracting, and leadership across the energy, oil, and gas value chain. So my question will be to the BPP Amazon, like we call ourselves out there, yes. What is the realistic timeline for developing the upcoming national policy on affirmative procurement? So we need a realistic timeline, and what immediate short-term milestones can stakeholders commit to within a 12 to 24 months period? Because we need to know how long this national policy is going to come fully in force. Thank you.
We are trying to get everyone to tell us how to roll out the policy. We want, like you have noted, over the years, teaching service, For the very first time in 12 years, the policy is about to see the light of day. And we are doing a lot of stakeholder engagements. I mean, Inter-Bau is here today, pulling DG from Abuja to come and sit there because everybody's voice needs to be heard. So for us, we've done a lot of stakeholder handshake. We're continuing, and I'm going to use this opportunity to let everyone here know that on the 3rd and 4th of March, happening in Abuja, is an international center and UN women-sponsored training program for policymakers to let them know that this policy is coming. There is no going back. We have an engagement with the target group that is select target group, and then there's going to be an online link so that everybody in Nigeria can participate in the program. So that's coming up next week, the 3rd and the 4th.
Do you have any other meets set up for other locations geographically?
Yes, ma'am. So we're having that. We're going to be sharing an online link on the BBP website. This is going to be announcing something on the radio, just so you know how to connect, because we can't bring everybody to Abuja. So one, and then we talked about the immediate thing that we are doing is to do the validation of the policy. As of today, what I can tell you is that we had a group of stakeholders at the state where people did good morning. Did you recall on part of our working visit was to go to states to ask states to make inputs to the national
This
policy.
is ongoing already.
Yes, we just left Lagos last month. We came to visit Lagos State PPA, the Public Procurement Agency of Lagos. We have Kaduna State in the room talking, Kogi State, National State. We have people from NYSC, Youth Development, the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs. These are stakeholders that are making inputs into the formulation and review of existing laws. So what we have done is to put all the existing laws together and to harvest the common points of progress to make it their national policy on affirmative procurement.
I love it. I love it. So my next advice also is that if there is anyone in the room and you're working with an organization, you haven't heard your organization mentioned, or you heard your organization mentioned and you were not able, you're not aware, my advice is ask someone in your organization to reach out to BPP and ask questions. You wanted to give an answer to one of the earlier questions, and you touch that and then we'll wrap it up.
Thank you very much, Mo. I just want to...
23, 24 years of my life. Collaborating is never easy. It is easier to always build your own table, and before you know it, you have 100 tables in the room, rather than one table that can take 1,000 people. Collaborating will take something from you, but it will give you more than what you put in. And I want to encourage everyone listening here, whether you're online, as much as you can. You will donate some of your autonomy to a collaborative effort. But what it will give you is way more than what you put into it. If we all contribute one megawatt of power to something that can power this entire building, and then the device powers beyond what you personally want to power, we have all benefited, and people coming after us will also benefit. And on that note, I want to say, since our goal and chief takeaway from this session is that the stakeholder base has to be very rich, let us think specifically and professionally about collaborating more. And on that note, we bring this particular session to an end. You were going to say? Just something. Tell me. Very correct. And within the OPSN structure, we also have a lot of affiliates like Mechanics Association, Plumber. Take away from this session. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, everyone, for being a part of this session. We're very grateful. We'll time for the pictures now, and then I will be handing over to Ms. Fabia.
We recognize all participants, distinguished partners, development agencies, leaders of the construction and build environment, bodies, all our civil society actors, private. So pleased to join this important engagement, aptly titled Gender on the Tender. I commend the organizers and the practice for placing a spotlight on an issue that sits at the heart of inclusive growth, economic justice, and sustainable national development. Empowering our women in construction and the built environment through affirmative procurement. Ladies and gentlemen, public procurement is one of the most powerful economic tools available to government. It shapes markets, it determines who participates in economic opportunity, and sends a strong signal about national priorities. When procurement systems are gender blind, they inadvertently reinforce historical inequalities for transformation. This is precisely the thinking of the underpins of women's economic empowerment policy of Nigeria. The WE policy is the deliberate shift from fragmented, welfare-oriented interventions to a coordinated, rights-based, and a market-responsive framework for women's economic inclusion. At its core is the recognition that women need multi-finance, market, and critically procurement opportunities. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, affirmative procurement, as articulated within the WE policy, is not about lowering standards or creating unfair advantage. Rather, it's about correcting structural imbalances that have historically excluded women-owned and women-led enterprises from competitive markets and built environment. It acknowledges that equal treatment in unequal systems does not produce equal outcomes. Through affirmative procurement, the WE policy encourages deliberate measures such as targeted set-asides, preferential scoring, simplified bidding requirements, and capacity building support that enables women-owned businesses to compete fairly and successfully. These measures are designed to unlock women's participation across the value chain, from consultancy and design to material supply, project management, engineering services, and construction delivery. The significance of this approach cannot be overstated, ladies and gentlemen. The construction and built environment sector is a major driver of employment, infrastructure. Excluding our women from this sector represents not only a social injustice, but also a significant economic loss. Evidence consistently shows that when women participate meaningfully in economic, households are more resilient, communities are stronger, and economies grow more sustainably. Ladies and gentlemen, affirmative procurement therefore serves multiple national objectives. It expands the pool of competent suppliers and contractors. It strengthens local enterprise and development, and it promotes innovation and competition. And it aligns with Nigerians' commitments to gender equality. Mr. President, President Bola Tinubu, GCFI, which places people-centered development, economic inclusion at the forefront of our governance. For the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs and Social Development, our role is both academic and collaborative. We work to provide the policy backbone, coordinate the stakeholders, and advocate for the mainstreaming of gender-responsive procurement across public and private institutions. We also support women entrepreneurs to build capacity, meet targets, and scale sustainability so that affirmative procurement translates to long-term competitiveness, not dependency. From conversation to action. Development partners must continue to support pilots, data generation, and technical assistance. The regulatory procurement must embed gender considerations into procurement frameworks and guidelines. Our professional bodies and industry leaders must open doors mentor women and challenge exclusionary norms, while women themselves must organize, build capacity, and seize this golden opportunity with confidence and excellence. In closing, ladies and gentlemen, let me emphasize that putting gender on the tender is not a favor to women. It's procurement, as envisioned in the WE policy, is a pathway to building a more inclusive, a more resilient, and prosperous Nigeria, where women are not spectators, but full participants in shaping our physical and economic landscape. I thank you all for your commitment. I look forward to
persons with disabilities and others. When Madam Mo is ready, I will hand over to her to bring up her panelists. And yeah, we look forward to a rich conversation. It will be 45 minutes, and we will leave time for audience questions.
Session on bridging the finance gap, expanding financial opportunities for women and women-owned and led businesses in construction and the built environment. And we're measuring that with the leveraging the National Affirmative Procurement Policy for employment and job creation for priority groups, young persons with youth and persons with disabilities and others. Now, for these sessions that were originally built to be separate, I'd like us to see how in the first session we touched on a couple of the things that need to be done. And one of those things we said was to be able to aggregate and to be able to support and create clusters where solopreneurs can plug in, get support, and also create a channel for government to be able to easily reach and trickle this policy all the way down to the last mile entrepreneur. Now, in order to be able to do that, we've already established that money is needed. So it's no surprise that on this panel, we have somebody who understands capital very well. She's my sister, Mrs. Olajumoke Akinomi. She's the CEO of Alethea Capital. Please, as I call their names, support me with a round of applause and escort them to the stage with it. And as the Lagos State Coordinator, I have somebody that you will be very pleased, unit of the Fidelity Bank. Right calling as the founder of Redberry, Mrs. Mofoyeke Omoli. We also have Mr. Olalekan Owonikoko, a very blessed amongst women kind of man. He is the co-founder and executive director of Project Enable Africa. Is it possible to leave the seat in the middle? Yes, I want you to feel very, very blessed indeed. How are you feeling, sir? Estrogen people, and amongst those people, you also have people who are physically disabled. And these people who are in this situation are often, in our climate especially, are often almost automatically written off. Not even as members of society now, but I'm talking about an economically vibrant group that could be contributing to our economic pot. From your experience and seeing also that this policy, I'm not sure how much of the policy you have seen and what it promises, but how can inclusive procurement drive employment opportunities for persons with disabilities beyond ownership to workforce inclusion? Particularly again, taking it into consideration that our traditional trajectory has been to neglect these people, not even looking at them as economically vibrant demography. Over to you, sir.
fine. So in terms of workforce, for persons with disability, especially as it relates to, say, procurement and all of that, so we are saying not just persons with disabilities being owners of businesses, but being part of the workforce. First, we have to understand from just what you said that there is a lot of discrimination and low representation across all sectors. We do not have enough data for disability inclusion in Nigeria. Organizations like mine are just beginning to create that sort of data. So, but I can tell you, using the UN numbers, that about 15% of Nigerians are persons living with disabilities. So if you take that number and then you say what's the percentage of the population that are women, then what is the population of the percentage of that population that are women with disabilities? You see that someone said 5% of procurement goes to women. Now think of how many of that goes to persons with disabilities that are women, right? But I think that one of the things we can do, since the Disability Act mandates that 5% of employment be reserved for persons with disability, that's a good starting point. It means that in all of the procurement policy, in all of the implementation of procurement across all states, we can ensure or enforce that every organization that is implementing any procurement by themselves have part of their workforce at least 5% persons with disability. It's like the way the government is going about the tax implementation. It means that you want to benefit from any government, opportunity. They ask you, are you tax compliant? How about if any organization, any parastatal wants to implement a government, procurement? How about we ask them, are you disability inclusive? Do you have 5% of employment as persons with disability? That helps us to create numerous opportunities for persons with disability within the workforce, because we know that persons with disabilities can work, right? My organization work in bridging the gap between the demand and supply of talent with disabilities, and we know there are many persons with disabilities who can. That would help us cut down or increase the amount of persons with disability that we have in the workforce. And I will stop there for now.
Fantastic, thank you so much. And to corroborate you, how many people have been to Studio 24 recently? You've met with some of the photographers who are actually deaf? Yeah, exactly. So we're seeing this come up, and it's a model that we hope will trickle all the way down. However, I also know that being an employer of labor in a field where, for example, persons with disabilities might be, yes, there are barriers, but we still have these expectations. And taking, for example, an employer who is willing to expand their frontier to be inclusive.
For organizations, businesses that want to adopt disability inclusion, employ persons with disability, but do not have the resources to do that, that funding provides a form of support. But that's in terms of the costs of disability. But in terms of the expertise, understanding, a lot of employers want to, but they are not confident. How do we speak with persons with disabilities? How do we make sure that our space is inclusive? That is where organizations like mine come in, where we could audit the organization. Where are the gaps? What are the things you need to do in terms of your policies, maybe employment policy? For example, if you put a vacancy out there, but you have put it in such a way that a visually impaired person cannot access that vacancy, you have automatically excluded, persons with visual impairment. If someone comes for an interview in the organization, say a hearing impaired person, and there is no sign language there's no sign language interpreter there, you have automatically disqualified that person. That is where organizations like mine come in to help audit your process, your policy, your people, your platform, and then the physical space. How can this accommodate? Then we make recommendations. Over the years, we've had a big business in Nigeria rebuild their head office just so that they can be disability compliant. But that is even like a big step, right? But there are a lot of other smaller adjustments that can be done. Like your website, is it inclusive? Is it accessible for persons with disabilities? If we can take some of those low-hanging fruits there, make adjustments. Sometimes it's just the attitude of persons in the organizations that are manning some of these key places like customer service, your receptionist. If a persons with disability come in, can they interact? Do they know the language to speak with them, right? So if we can come in, do that audit, make recommendations and do some form of training, it will boost your confidence and you can be sure that if any person with disability come into your organization, they can work both as staff and as customers.
Love it. Thank you so much. Taking a lead from what you've just given now, you've pretty much given us a 5-minute in this question because this aspect of impact reporting. Now, should employment impact reporting be integrated into procurement performance reviews, and why?
If I'm talking about what my brother just talked about, yes. And like again, I'm going to use opportunity to say we are listening. He was just asking me while we were talking if the National Commission, the persons with disabilities, are part of the stakeholders and the policy. And I said to him yes, because they actually sent in the review of the draft. They wanted us to include some things, and it is right there included. So yes, government needs to put in the measures that would show that we are disability compliant. And I just made a note here, even on our own website, we're starting with us, because everything that we do, we want to walk the talk, is to say yes to your question.
What does it sound like? How can I take that and make it a business decision?
Again, I'll say, from the government end.
Yeah, from the policy perspective now.
So from the policy perspective, what we have decided, or let me not say because we're not done yet.
Yes, I mean, it's still a process.
Part of the requirements for compliance to get the contract is apply with the quota that is set aside for persons.
Fantastic, I love that. So I'm going to take a line right from there and go straight to Mrs. Akinomi. Alethea Capital has been, and I know this personally as well because we started doing some work with them, and when I say we, I mean the Nigerian Association of Small-Scale Industrialists. And I'm wondering, because it has also been flagged as one of the challenges that a lot of women-owned and women-led businesses have. So it makes me wonder now that this is pretty much like a requirement of the policy, and impact reporting is probably far from the agenda of the average woman-owned business. But this is not a problem, it just poses an opportunity, which makes me want to ask you, how can we empower women entrepreneurs to create thorough business plans that show financial institutions that they have growth potential, and also how to unlock job creation at scale using this affirmative procurement policy?
From the perspective of the work that we've done with women over the years. So you may not know this, but Alethea manages the largest gender fund in sub-Saharan Africa. It's a $102 million fund. 6, 7, 8 years ago, in fact 8 years ago, when we started the journey, it was an impossible thing. I mean, the first question was, why a gender fund? But now that we're reporting progress 5 years later, it is clear to us that this is so much needed. And I came here on a very short invitation because I thought this is an excellent platform to advance the work that we're doing. What does it mean? Evidence is that women need to kind of stand up. There's a lot of issues around around what we think is our incapacity or inability to perform or to deliver. And some of the work that we have done is extensively on the technical assistance capacity building side. The language of a business plan is the language of money, is financial. It is not qualitative, it is quantitative. We can be as technically sound as we like, as we can be, and most women are, because most women will go over and beyond, to prove their ability to do this work. However, when you're talking, the reason why you're writing a business plan is because you want to demonstrate the innate potential of your business, your ability to raise capital, to get the support that you want from investors. The investors speak a language that is more finance-based. So no woman in this room should exclude themselves from financial literacy. You don't have a choice if you run a business. And as we speak to, it might be digressing a little bit, as we speak to this policy, it's important that it is somehow backed by the right financial structuring to start with, so that when we want to pilot the program, it's not just about getting behind to get into procurement, it's also about how do you then support the women to understand what it means to financially couple the transaction and make it work. And then the third leg of it is backing it by excellent capacity building. All women need to scale up. I heard the DG, I think that's his title, say, if you have a one-man business, scaling up is beyond financial scaling up. It's also about impact, your structure, your governance framework. And what is being measured today is different from what was being measured 20, 30 years ago. Because your investors are not just looking for money, they're looking for how you're making impact in the environment and how you're making social impact. So we need to open ourselves up to the education that is required for us to be able to be successful at this.
Novices are also not strong enough to do a lot of this work on their own. And at the same time, government has this onerous task of reaching each and every one person. But there is this bridge in the middle, which says that you can cluster up, you can come together, you can collaborate. And I also say to we were having a conversation earlier, and I said to Mrs. Eugenia, I said, you can hardly regulate something with which you are not intimate. So if government is not really seeing these businesses, feeling their pain, and knowing what it is that really ails them, it is hard. You may be making laws and policies at this trajectory, and businesses are actually off on the other tangent. But I see something that needs to be done, and I think on this panel, one person that I would really love to ask, because she has, not only is she head of women banking now for Fidelity, she has a very rich experience in the events, aggregating space, and she has seen a lot of women Harambee that is coming together to do stuff. What would you tell women, especially women who are in their silos and are thinking, okay, I can't do this on my own. I'd like to get together with other women, like-minded women, so that maybe we can get into something like this. What would be your practical, experience-backed advice to them?
Responsive financing, because if you bank with a good bank, Fidelity Bank, we have a separate desk for women that caters strictly to women's businesses. We'll help from the beginning, from scratch, from capacity building, from ideas, from advisory points of view, and trainings. And we guide you through your businesses and help you to scale. So it's definitely very important for you to bank with the right bank.
And of course, Fidelity is the right bank.
Fidelity is the right bank.
This, I think, is pretty much what you're saying, because you see all these women in their own individualities, and sometimes you can use the instrumentation of the bank and the reach of the bank to pull them together. Maybe invite them to a program, and there they can Harambee and pull together. Excellent.
I want to interrupt us at this point to please ask to excuse Mrs. Oje because she has a flight to catch. However, I know that there may be other questions likely to be directed to her.
Spaces, especially male-dominated spaces, because they have either experienced some kind of discrimination,
funding from, or support, let me not say funding, support from government institutions like the Women Affairs, the Bank of Industries, and all of this, the Abuja Chamber of Commerce at that time, the fact that we're able to aggregate these women helped. So for women in construction, I would say that for this policy to work, we need to leverage the civil society organizations.
Right.
Because they are closer to the ground for truth.
Right.
So they are able to also identify the organizations led by women that have true capacity.
Right.
So when these people come together, they can joint bid. And then there's also the whole idea of burden in procurement. It means that you have a bigger organization,
yes,
bringing in smaller organizations
right.
around to mentor and handhold them to be able to bid for jobs themselves, and then joint bidding and all of that. I'm going to rest it here for now. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so very much. Is to get into one of these clusters and become visible to government, and which is really what a lot of these women-owned businesses need. My sister, Ms. Tosin Abajo, is a little bit challenged with her vocal cords today, and so while she has done a lot to contribute to this session, I want to ask a question, and I'm thinking of a question that I can ask that she can answer for me in as few words as possible. In your experience being Lagos State Coordinator SMIDN, is it possible for this policy to work and work all the way down? All the way down meaning to the average Mama Basira enterprises or somebody who sells fabrics in Oshodi. If it is, what do you look for in order to be able to handhold them? Because being the government agency in charge of small business development, what would you require the most for them in order to be able to bring them into this circle? SMIDN does so well is this awareness and sensitization. They have them programs all set up. In fact, there is a business development service provider group that that SMIDN has that provides these services to individual businesses. And it is in fact that many of those businesses usually don't have to pay what they would have paid if they were consulting a BDSP on their own. Because I think SMIDN subsidizes the cost of developing businesses. So these I see as one of the things that businesses, women-owned, women-led businesses can tap into in order to be able to get to where we were told earlier, what the government is looking for, what BPP is looking for. And so for this session, I think one of the key takeaways for me would be that the help for women to be able to get in shape, to position for readiness, for procurement, will come from very many chapters. It will come from the private sector, the banking system, it will come from civil society organizations, because there are also rights issues involved here, and for those rights issues, they can be demographic based as well. There are women's rights, sexual rights, there are rights for persons who are living with disabilities. There's also some provision that I think is good to bring to the fore here. The Commission on People Living with Disabilities has some kind of support that they give to businesses who are ready to reshape their businesses to be more inclusive. And that's one thing I see that we can all easily tap into here. I would like to thank very much every member of this session, including Mrs. Eugenia in absence. Even in absentia, she's still showing us the way by leading us to the BPP website and where we can get a lot of information. There's still so much more that we can talk about. In fact, if you looked at my notes, there's so much more that we intended to talk about, but I'm getting a lot of signals on time. So I'm going to advise that if you have questions and you haven't given them to the Inter-Bau Foundation people already, you can also send them to the Inter-Bau Foundation email through their website. It will be supplied on the screen in a minute or so. At the most, maybe 3 live questions. I'm already seeing a hand waving very vigorously. I see another one and I see, I have to take this man's question, even though he's the last person to raise his hand. We need to honor the testosterone in the room.
I'm a co-founder of Citizens Global Cargo, and I'm proud to say that 95% of my clients are women. So I'm proud to say that. So I'm a great revealing logistics and, of course, procurement. Now, my question is this. The recent ugly incident, we saw contractors protesting for payments. They were literally crying for payment. What? Someone said they are still crying. So, what can I share, or what measures is the government, the BPP, putting in place to honor this 90 days payment? That's one leg of the question. The second leg, I'm addressing it to the venture capitalist. I used to work for Velvet Capital, so at least I'm in that field. So what project finance tools are you going to put in place when you finance projects for persons that have come to get facilities for 90 days and for some reason, unfortunately, the government decides to renege on their promise? What tools or what policies can we formulate for women, for my clients? Thank you very much.
Private equity funds, that's what we do. And so we invest, we don't take a short-term position, we invest in businesses, settle, look for growth, and then exit. And I think that that's the kind of capital that a lot of businesses need in this environment. Thank you.
So I've worked on the Women's Economic Empowerment and then the National Policy for quite some time now. So coming from the private sector organization, so one common concern is what is in it for us, because they are business oriented and they are profit oriented, So I think that while we are stressing and advocating for the adoption and the practice of this policy, there should also be need to stress the benefit and incentive and the mechanism to this private sector organization not to see the adoption of this policy as a CSR. Because sometimes they probably want to say, okay, let's bring women on board, let's put it in the form of a CSR. It should be taken from a business perspective. These are serious women with serious businesses. So it should not be seen as a CSR. It should be seen as a core business. So I think we should also stress the benefits for private sector organizations, and then the mechanisms should also be checked. It should be checked so that any private sector organization that comply with this policy, there should be incentives from the part of the government. I think so. It's both a question and a contribution. Thank you.
And I'm glad they say that the policy is still being kind of worked on. That should sit within the policy. What is in it for me, especially when the conversation is toward the private sector? Because it's enough, currently we're talking about public procurement, but there's also private sector procurement, which in itself is quite hefty. But the private sector person is not a social enterprise, so they want to see exactly what, and it should be embedded in the policy, and that's an important point that you made. Now that I have the microphone, I am so sorry. We've been talking a lot about data here, and we have a database and we have a database. The reason I met Mo is because I found her on LinkedIn, because I had spent the past 6 months before I met her banging my head trying to find the database of women-owned and led businesses in the construction value chain.
there was nowhere that I didn't go. Okay, so I don't know where all these databases sit, but they're certainly not sitting in the right place. And I'm hoping that this kind of engagement will also open us up to what should we be doing about the database and how do people get access to these things. Thank you very much.
Absolutely important. This decision, we already agree on that. And I think it was at the beginning of the last session, the session before this, that I said, this is not charity. It does not make sense if you have 10 fingers and you want to carry something and you're using only 4 or 5. Women and women-owned businesses, women-led businesses contribute a great deal to the GDP of this country, up to 40%. And it is unthinkable that you would leave that part to scrounge for less than 5% of government spending. It does not make any business sense. And so it is sensible, at the very least, for government to be able to execute this, knowing that government is doing government a favor. If you are using your Abu's money to entertain your Abu, it is to your benefit. And so, yes, this is not charity, far from it. This is not charity at all. It's a business decision. And I think government has been sensible enough to come to this decision and then to keep this at the forefront of their minds as we go forward into implementation, that it is only to the advantage and benefit of Nigerians. That said, I will take your question, ma'am.
From DJ's presentation, we talked about the linkage of professionals and professionals. So looking at banks, looking at SMEDIN and other organizations that work with SMEs, how can professionals partner with the organization to be able to share, I believe, the upstream and the downstream of this process? The professionals can come in, because how do they get these funds? We have to prepare them to be able to get their business in order, whether it's structuring, their bookkeeping, their accounts, so that they are ready. And when they get the funding or they are able to get the procurement, how to make sure that they are sustainable after this process and they are able to be profitable, because a business that's not profitable cannot last more than a year. So I would like to hear how professionals like the organization can also partner with the organization to achieve this amazing goal. Thank you.
The bridge builders are not the bridge itself. But these people are, responding to tenders real time. That builds their capacity. That's the first thing that I think professional bodies can come together to do for their
The ICANs, the builders board, and the rest of them.
Because there's a problem if not careful. These CSOs and professional organizations can want to position themselves as the bridge, which defeats the purpose of the policy itself. Because you have to go through them to be able to submit. What we want is you build their capacity for them to be able to bid for tenders by themselves, submit and get the jobs. Now, what we measure at the end of the day is how many women or how many persons from the target group have you been able to train that got the job and delivered quality work. So that helps us to reduce tokenism, because that's going to happen. We're saying women-owned businesses, women-led businesses. Someone comes forward to say my business is women-led, and then the women that is at the helm of affairs have no actual power. They have no financial control over the organization. They have no decision-making role. But we are ticking the box. She's a CEO. She's this. But if you build capacities directly, you build that bridge, then it helps in so many ways. And then I think, to answer this first question, you have the question about the current thing that is going on with contractors. I made a note while you were saying that. I'm not going to speak to those people because I believe that they are big organs. But as it relates to this particular initiative, this policy, there's something we have in there, procurement credit guarantee scheme, right? Which means that when you get a contract and your organization aligns with the policy because there are criteria, you can borrow against the contract,
not against your personal assets.
Right.
I think that will help.
And I think that is the security that is very important to note. And that brings us also, not just to the end of the question and answer session, but also to this wrap-up stage. And I would like to, at this point, state also that part of what we want to achieve here is not just the access to women, but the ricochet effect as well, when more women are funded. And so this trickles down into job creation and proliferation, and then you see that our employment gaps begin to close. And I'm very, very grateful that you also brought us here. Thank you so very much. I wish that we still had more time. Unfortunately, we don't. We just have to wrap up here. And on this note, I'd like to thank you all for being a part of this very interesting last-minute merger session. Thank you, in spite of your health challenge, Ms. I think we'll take the pictures down. Thank you, Ms. Mo. Equally high up to do this merger last minute.
And to our online participants, we don't necessarily want to get you out of here fast. We can talk to some of the panelists. If you didn't get a chance to ask your questions, this is the time to interact with them. A couple of points through the day sessions, and then we will close out. I believe the patient women must actively position their businesses by demanding information, registering with the CAC, filling out, in short, getting ourselves ready to be able to benefit from the policy when it goes live. We talked around the role of NECA and the role that NECA plays in linking procurement to business expansion through inclusive and strong networks. We talked about the importance, if I can have one house please, the importance of bridging the access gaps. There should be targeted capacity building, sensitization, and training of trainers. This was identified as a critical solution. I think throughout the day, capacity building, access and readiness has really come out strongly. So from the first panel, key recommendations, transparency in registration and access, very important. The use of quotas, creation of credible databases, we heard that again being said in the second panel, digitalization and stakeholder collaboration and stronger networking, encouraging women to connect intentionally and build supportive clusters. From the minister's address, we had the Honorable Minister of the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs speak with us. She says that the WE policy, the Women's Economic Empowerment Policy, through affirmative procurement empowers women-owned businesses. It's not just a social issue. There is a demand for competent contractors and project managers. Women must fill this gap, and we are ready. Are we ready? Yes. Thank you. From consultation to action, development partners must ensure the policy succeeds, and gender policies should now include those same types of quotas. Women's-led businesses must focus on quantitative impact reporting and partner with supportive financial institutions. We have Fidelity Bank, for example, in the House, and the other banks who have their gender desks, which assist businesses to get going. The WE policy also aims to reduce sexual, or rather the WE policy, but more specifically the affirmative procurement policy aims to reduce sexual exploitation in business dealings, ensuring minimal to zero inappropriate human contact. Private sector and stakeholder support. Private sector has a role to play in readiness for procurement and ensuring that women's businesses are able to participate when the time comes. So we want more inclusive practices, ensure websites and customer services are available to all persons, including persons with disabilities, conduct audits of organizational practices from time to time to improve inclusivity, and policies and support mechanisms should enable businesses adapt to be inclusive and more sustainable. I want to say thank you to our distinguished guests and panelists. A special thanks to our development partners at GIZ, the Swiss Agency for Development and their consulates. A special thank you to the Director General of Public Procurement, who was here with us earlier this morning. And of course, to our dynamic federal our dynamic minister, Honorable Minister of the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs and Social Development, Hajia Iman Sulaiman, who was also here and spoke with us online. Readiness, capacity, and access, I think, are the key words. So in terms of next steps, please don't run away. Talk to one another. Let's have a little bit of networking going on. The conversation doesn't end, it continues, and you can follow with these hashtags. Hashtag, and you might want to write them down, gender on the agenda. Hashtag gender on the agenda. So you can talk about this event, create more awareness yourselves, your champions as well, and please, if you put it on social media, let it trend with the hashtag gender on the agenda. Also, inclusive procurement, another hashtag, because it's beyond just gender. Another hashtag, affirmative procurement. Inclusive procurement, affirmative procurement. Women economic empowerment is also another hashtag. And the final one, hashtag women build Nigeria. So, gender on the agenda, inclusive procurement, affirmative procurement, women economic empowerment, women build Nigeria. It would have been great if we could have the hashtags up. And of course, please stay in touch with the Inter-Bau Foundation, our conveners for today's event. Please, can we have a round of applause for the Inter-Bau Foundation, please? Applause to the entire team, spearheaded by our powerful and dynamic CEO, Doris. Okechukwu Mbadiwe. Okay, so I think we have come to the end. My name is Fabia Ogumeko. It's been an honor, and these are meaningful, and these are conversations that truly, if we all work together, will drive change. Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Thank you. And thank you to our team as well, of our sign language team, for supporting throughout the event. Please.
Ifeoma Ewuzie, Director AD at World. Gender on the tender has been quite informative and quite an expository forum. You know, it has also thrown more light, especially in terms of policies and the way we have to navigate how we do business differently, especially in this era. As an entrepreneur, I've come to realize that we need more joint ventures to ensure that we grow. You know, we cannot do it individually, and for the stakeholders who have come, especially from the government parastatals, at least was mind-opening today to see to it that their intentional initiatives and their policies from governments on how we can actually partnership together, you know, for different kinds of projects at large. Thank you.
Okay, my name is Uma Musa, and I am really excited to be here today. I think it was very informative. I learned a lot. It was really impactful because before coming to this space, I just had this foresight to want to really have my construction firm that would be more about ladies in business from the north. However, coming here today, I got to realize that there are different organizations and formations of groups of women that could come together and do this better. So I'm really looking at it from the perspective of having to make my company stronger by ensuring, for instance, there is this group of builds. I think they said something about company of builders, something like that, that carries all the technical people in the field of construction. So I'm looking at a situation where if my company as a company can register under such umbrella, or if it means each person from different fields, for instance, my builder, my architect, each person, I mean, from their technical expertise can belong to fragments from the group. So I mean, aside that, there is a lot I'm getting to learn also about the government bodies, because I rarely work with the government solicitations. I do more of private. So coming here today exposed me to more and opportunities, in general, to expand. Thank you very much.
So my name is Fabia Ogumekon. I'm the principal consultant at Adaba Initiatives, a lawyer and gender. Absolutely fantastic being a part of today's program. It's really impactful as we look forward to the launch of the National Affirmative Procurement Policy. It's a great opportunity and a great platform to have been able to be a part of the Stakeholder Consultative Forum to give a wide range of women, but not just women, persons with disabilities and other parts, other members of the vulnerable communities and other people who can benefit from this policy and who are contemplated, more importantly, by the policy, to be able to come together, hear what the policy offers or will offer when it's launched, and even make their own inputs, now before it's finalized. So it's been truly fulfilling, lots of key points and actions coming out, especially the need for capacity building, training, information and awareness, the use of networks to be able to spread this information, and the opportunity really to be able to contribute. So I think it's been a fantastic session. Kudos and congratulations to the organizers, to the Inter-Bau Foundation, the development partners, the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs and Social Development, the Bureau for Public Procurement, and everyone who's come together to make this possible. My organization, Adaba, is very happy to have rendered anchoring services and to have been able to facilitate the conversations throughout the day. It's been our pleasure to be a part of it, and thank you for the opportunity, and I'm sure we will do more and go forward with this policy, and it will be something that will be a landmark for women's economic empowerment in Nigeria. Thank you.
Right. My name is Faith George. I'm from Delta State, but I school in Yabatek. And during the period of awareness that Itaba came to Yabatek to create the awareness regarding the skills acquisition program on painting, I was in school during that period and I keyed into it, and it was awesome. I want to say a big thank you to the German government, the Switzerland, and the GIZ in partnership with Itaba for giving us the opportunity to come this far. And as I'm talking to you, I've taken my first contract on painting and I've delivered it, and I'm hoping to have more as I'm talking to you. So I want to say a big thank you to all the team that have put this together. May God bless you all, and I love you all. Thank you.
My name is Doris Okechukwu Mbadiwe. I'm the CEO of Inter-Bau Foundation for Women and Youths. We're established to bridge the gender gap in skills and employment in Nigeria's construction industry. So we're happy to be here. We held this convening to support, to create awareness about the upcoming national policy on affirmative procurement. I'm also a member of the National Technical Working Group working on the same policy, and we felt the need at Inter-Bau Foundation to, get feedback, start to talk about it, and get engaged in stakeholder conversations and discussions before it is indeed perfected. So we wanted views from the stakeholders, from the target groups being women-owned and women-led, youth, people with disabilities, and veterans. Those are the target groups, the target beneficiaries of the upcoming national policy on affirmative procurement. And we're sort of happy with the outcome. There were a lot of exchanges, a lot of questions about the policy coming out, a lot of recommendations. So we're going to take all of this back, go back and look at the policy documents and know what recommendations to impute and move forward with that. Yes, so again, just about the gender on the tender. Gender on the tender talks about gender responsive public procurement. And what is that? That is how government, that is saying that government can actually procure goods and services in construction in a way that promotes gender equality. It has to do with mainstreaming gender into public procurement as a way to empower women. and of course the youths, the veterans, people with disabilities. So that's, the whole program we had today. Inter-Bau Foundation, because we believe in skills, you have to be skilled. It's not just enough that you're a woman. You have to be competent, you have to be professional. We actually train women in construction skills at our training program. We've been doing this since 2021. After we train them, and we train them in not just the core skills construction, we train them in essential skills. So they pass through the program knowing about project management, finance, entrepreneurship, health, safety and environment, effective communication, teamwork, collaboration, all that is needed to be able to thrive in any working, any persons with disabilities. But it's something that we're looking into as accommodating. We're not that new. We've been, like I said, 2021. We're still working on improving the programs at the stage where we know that we're ready, because it's not just accommodating them. We need to make sure that we can attend to any needs that they may have, and that the program will be conducive for them. But it's something, of course, that we're very much open to doing and will happen in the near future. Thank you very much.